I think a AAA developer, like whether it's like an EA or a Riot or Activision, like these companies are probably like the creators are not going to become more powerful than them. But I do think that for those indie games, older games like Among Us or Rust, the creators play a huge role in whether or not that game is going to be successful. Kids watching content on YouTube is like they've got their iPad and it's just like, recommended videos, or like you'll just click on that or swipe next, and they could sit there for like several hours, which I think is a very different behavior than most people that watch content on YouTube. And I think it's just this endless scrolling. Ryan, he's actually paving the way. So a lot of other content creators that are much older are like looking at what he's doing and going, wow, like how did he build such a massive licensing business? How can I go build that? And
everybody's playing survival games because 2021 is the year of the survivor. That's why.
That's so true.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to see you all here live with us. Welcome to the State of Streaming series and show. Happy New Year. First of all, it's great to see everybody here. And I've only done 2 streams so far of the new year, but it's been feeling good, man.
2021, the only way is up after 2020.
Seems like it'd be easy enough at this point. But in this series, we sit down, look at some of the events that are going on in the industry. As you guys always know, we've tuned in on these. It never stops. So we like to keep you updated as well as share some of our own thoughts on it, get your guys' thoughts as well. We are doing these live, so big shouts to everybody that is live with us, whether you are on Twitch or Facebook. We got both the chats up, so we'll be reading through that, and would love your guys' input after we see some of the videos. We got some little intros of the stories put together for us so we can kind of chat about it and get into all the good stuff that's been going on, and to keep you guys updated on, as well as just give us a chance to talk about it. My name, of course, is StoneMountain64, full-time streamer, co-founder of Pipeline, joined, of course, by Snoopeh.
I am the business guy behind the scenes, formerly very good at League of Legends, not so much anymore, unfortunately.
Pretty good at Among Us, though, I gotta say.
I'm getting better. Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of different topics today to discuss. You see some of them on the screen around us right now, but cool content creator strategy from a channel with over 1 million subscribers, talking through some of that. So we got kind of an overview. We'll unpack that a little bit. Clubhouse platform, some interesting progress with that. I actually don't even know too much about it, so
luckily I do, so I'm looking forward to getting into that.
Yeah, a 9-year-old YouTuber makes hundreds of millions, which is it's crazy to even think about, but you guys might already be able to guess who it is, but we'll cover some of that. Mr. Beast, of course, is in one of the biggest channels in the entire planet. Obviously, last year really blew up. He's got such an incredible equation. That's what we're going to talk a bit about as well, because he made another really big, crazy move, as well as TikTok star lands a Hulu reality TV show, coming from TikTok to Hulu and original mainstream TV. I mean, there's a million things to break down on that, as well as, of course, big games, games kind of not even new game, but more games resurfacing like Rust. We'll tap a bit in on that, but a lot of different stuff, a lot of different areas. Biggest place to start, though, which I think is going to be great, is kind of just talking content strategy. So with that, let's roll it.
YouTube creator Aileen Zhu, who has 1 million subs, gives her 6 strategies for success. 1. Production consistency. Pick a publishing schedule and stick to it. 2. Serve your audience, not yourself. Always provide value for your audience. 3. Test and learn. Keep doing the things that work, but keep testing new things. 4. Brand consistency. You can keep trying new things, but always stick to who you are. 5. Refine format for engagement. Ask yourself, who is your audience? What's the message? What value does it add? And would I share this? 6. Be authentic and vulnerable. People resonate more with real than fabricated and filtered. 7. Become a cat. Is this a good list to start with? What would you add, remove, or change?
Note that I said 6 on that, and the 7 was not part of her strategy there, please.
I don't think Eileen Zhu mentioned be a cat, but
It'd
Mark
probably
does.
be pretty effective though, honestly. If you're a cat that can make some content, cat videos do pretty well.
They do on the internet, yeah. I think the list is really good. There's a couple that stand out, particularly to me. Like one is production consistency. It's super hard to be consistent. Not in the short term. Like people, you can do it for like a couple of weeks. That's not hard, but doing it over a couple of months and a couple of years is one of the hardest thing that any content creator faces. And I think for me, that's one of the top ones is being consistent across the board. And the other one that really stands out to me is test and learn. I think it's easy to become complacent and not want to iterate as a content creator. I don't know. What do you think about the in terms of the list that they have? Would you put production consistency number one?
Um, Production consistency, I don't necessarily think that's like the most important thing. And I do think there's a lot that kind of translates across creator space altogether. I mean, I think all of this is fantastic. And that was a lot. I mean, there's a lot you can unpack even within every single one of these points. Um, but especially when it does come to streaming, I mean, all of this is right on line with it. I think obviously just the authenticity of what you're creating, being able to do that consistently, even as you're testing different different products or different pieces of content, like all of that it's very difficult to do, and it's also something that kind of comes out as you do more. It's not to say that I think, at least in the way that I would say it, is like not to don't change or don't work on improving your content or how you're delivering things, but how do you keep on branching out to new areas? Because even if things are doing good, even, for example, when my YOLO series is doing really well and everything, it's still on the decline, right? So I'm still having to figure out where do I do new things? Where do I keep coming up with interesting things, even as things are working? Um, and
When you talk about like trying out new things, how do you balance trying new things, but also not trying to do too much at the same time? Like, how do
yeah,
you conquer one thing before like trying to do five different things?
chat's like, I'm consistently inconsistent. Yeah, I mean, that's a really hard thing to handle. I think one of the things that I kind of always focus on, and I do this in a lot of areas, is I kind of start small in one area and then build it into something that is a habit, something that I can continue to keep up. And then once that becomes easy, it's starting to add on to different layers. Um, I think of this even in the sake of my YouTube channel. When I started that, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to try and do, you know, for me, it was starting with like 2 to 3 videos a week, but I had a minimum of at least one video every week. And then that became comfortable for me. I tested out enough things to where I had a couple formats that I can follow. And that's a really big key in general. I think too that, um, she even does mention refining your format for engagement. I think that refining your format also just comes down to refining how you're delivering content, uh, in your process and your speed to do that, right? So for me, that's kind of testing out some of these different series. I find out a series that works. Okay, I now know the format. I don't need to, for another example, is my World's Best Clip of the Week show. I do that every single Monday. That's really my most systematic formula that I have. And it's something that it started out taking me an entire Sunday. Now I have teams that are in place that I trained on my process and how to do it, so that it's really only 40 minutes every Monday for me to put together an entire show that I now have over 370 episodes at. Let me tell you, I wasn't even close to that even at episode 10, right? But now that I've done this 370 plus over, I think 100 bonus episodes, uh, I've got the formula down, right? But that's
The
also refining it for engagement and how do I bring people out in the comment section. That's another thing that I did even early on with it.
a really good question from Sugar Shocks on that, which is when you're doing all those new things, how do you choose what's more important? Like, are you
Yeah.
doing like an ROI calculation? Is it more loose than that? Are you
Yeah.
just
I
like wanting
mean,
to experiment?
it's definitely more loose than that, but it is something that I'm keeping in mind, those same kind of parameters of how much am I going to get in return from this, as well as what's the long term of this look like for me? Like, do I even see a long term at some of these things and where it could potentially go? So, I think a real big indicator though is how much of it is actually like, am I getting from it? So, testing something out, like, am I getting comments? Am I getting positive feedback on it? And not only comments, but like, are the analytics actually showing up too? Because a lot of people will even say, oh yeah, I'll watch you play World of Warcraft or whatever it is. and then I go and play it and nobody stays around for it or continues on. I mean, a lot of people do, don't get me wrong, but it's also different. The comments aren't stacking up to what the analytics say in a lot of ways. And so that's where it is kind of testing it out. And is there some growth behind it? Is it something that I can continue going off of and kind of testing out there? I think comments can definitely be a good early indicator for things, as well as like an area to see where do you want to keep on going with it. But I think a lot of the numbers and are people searching for it is a huge way to do that.
It's a good comment from Awan in chat. He says, I think for every creator on the consistency one, it's finding what works for you. There's no like, I couldn't say that this is the best thing for Stone or the best thing for me. It really varies for every single person, and you need to find out like how you balance it around your life and how you can stay consistent. I think that I was just dovetailing the next topic, which is on when you're choosing platforms. And there's a new platform that's came out recently, which you touched on. You didn't know a lot about, but that's Clubhouse. Mark, do you want to roll the clip?
Clubhouse platform invites 40 top influencers to join their creator pilot program, which includes early access to new tools and regular meetings with the Clubhouse founders, several of which are in their 40s and 50s, which explains their #1 show, Better Than Okay, Boomer. Clubhouse is an audio-only app that is looking to build its own platform native celebrities, currently valued at $100 million with 600,000 registered users. One of the main topics of the Creator Pilot program has brought to light is problems with moderation. What kind of creators should be looking to build on this platform?
So for a little context for you, Stone, Clubhouse, it's a Silicon Valley like venture-backed startup, and it's around this idea of hanging out in chat rooms. So obviously we're like extremely used to that in the gaming side. But this is a new medium where you can essentially drop into lobbies and you can hear people speak, and then you can have like a conversation around a topic. And it's kind of like Discord a little bit, but you remember like Ventrilo and TeamSpeak like back in the day, like how you could just like drop into different chat rooms, similar to Discord nowadays.
I think I did see something about this, but it's not so much, or is it where people are there to kind of just watch and listen, but it's kind of like a network where you can kind of go and meet people.
So they're trying to lean into the networking side, but a lot of it is like the soapbox thing where like I'm gonna have a discussion. So it's like we're having a discussion, right? We could be having this discussion on Clubhouse, and people could be listening in like from the audio version. It's a really cool platform. It's been around now, I think, for about a year and a half, and definitely not big in the gaming side. It's more in the tech and kind of space, but it's growing pretty quickly. And they've done really well. There's a lot of hype in the tech industry, and I think it's going to be one of those apps that does blow up. I wouldn't say the TikTok scale, but it's going to be one of those apps that does really well. Early traction is looking really good.
Yeah, I mean, what's so interesting to me is one of the biggest categories anytime you go to Twitch is just chatting, which, to be fair, is an extremely broad category. But when you look at how many different games and different niches there are in general within games, that's going to break you into a whole lot of different categories. Whereas if you just talk general, whatever it is, it doesn't require a game, then that could apply to anybody, right? Even if you just talk to females, that's a much bigger population than just what that is. So it is really interesting to see how effective that is, especially when it is just even within the gaming niche, and that's working as well as it is.
Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat they've got like more and more. It's invite only right now, so you actually it's got 600K registered users, and it's invite only. So just imagine when they kind of open up the floodgates a little bit.
Right.
And Anime Daddy says a private podcast is kind of like a private podcast, but there's ways that you can bring in the audience a lot more than it being in one direction. Yeah,
it's an interesting concept. And I mean, it could reach out to a lot of people if they're bringing on 40 top influencers to start. That's much better than really like even what we saw with Mixer and its original origination. Even off the bat, they did bring on. I think they brought on quite a bit of people. But then they tried to capture Ninja, Shroud, and there just wasn't enough people pulling it over on that front too. So it'd be interesting if it falls kind of under that category where they can they pull enough people. Of course, this isn't quite as niche as specifically just gaming in terms of what could be captured on it to where, like, look at how well TikTok does in general. But I think that's a completely different format, really caters to more younger audiences as well. So will that really have as much of a pull on the older generations? I'd be interested to see. I mean, I definitely be interested in checking it out. But um, you see the platforms like Facebook though having now hanging out category, and if they can come up with a good way to create that experience where you can create a show, go live on a platform people already have, they're already on every day, that might be easier. Same thing even with YouTube, right? Like I feel like this is something YouTube could just nail if they really wanted to. I guess I don't know the specifics of how they've run it,
That's
but like,
that's my hunch, honestly, is I feel like you're gonna have those that are familiar with live, so like are probably not gonna use this because live is already that very real time like way of engaging with
Mhm.
an audience. I think this is gonna be more popular with YouTubers or like Instagram influencers that are looking to kind of get the experience of live,
Yeah.
but are not actually creating live content on Twitch.
You know what's interesting about that too? I feel like YouTube, obviously, they have some of the biggest creators in the world. Many creators with over 100 million subscribers now, as we were talking about in one of our previous shows. This could be an outlet for them even to have dialogue, to bring a community together, to chat. If they maybe don't feel like gaming or whatever resonates, or Twitch resonates as much with their audience, and bringing them over there, as well as some of the cuts that they might take on subscribers versus like them trying to bring over a Patreon or something. Which Patreon does have some tools where you can go live and things through that, but then it's only paid. So it's like this might actually fit a category for that, where it's like you can't really put some of that content onto your main channel because if you look at some of these massive channels, it's like they got a huge production behind everything now, and it's a certain level of quality and whatever it is. Even look at like the Philip DeFranco show. It's like uh, it's a very well catered show, and people go there for exactly what they expect, so he can keep in the algorithm, and he uses other tools offline to utilize that. Maybe this is a different way that maybe not established creators who are already using something else would necessarily pivot over to, but maybe there's something that, a new category could kind of come
I
into.
think that's a great insight. Like I'm B Pala was saying, Gary V would potentially use this. I think your point about how people might use Patreon or how people might use OnlyFans or something like that, like it's another one of the tools to engage with a certain part of their audience rather than being like the only way that they engage with their audience.
Yeah. But talking about YouTube as well, like it's not just going off to different platforms. Even on YouTube, we're seeing insane record numbers. Listen to this.
9-year-old Ryan's World Child influencer makes $29 million from his YouTube channel in 2020 and an estimated $200 million from branded toys and clothing. This also makes Ryan the only person legally able to say 2020 was the best year yet. Ryan Kaji got his start when he was 4 years old. There are some legal issues with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission investigation over allegations that video sponsors are not properly disclosed, but it's hard to ignore that kind of success. Would you help your 4-year-old become a YouTube influencer if she or he wanted to?
Told you guys, you might recognize him. Sugar says my 8-year-old loves Ryan. It's one of the biggest channels on YouTube, actually, and it's creating content, opening toys, and it's expanded so much, and it's something I've actually been following for the last 5-6 years. Been doing it for a very long time. Um, in general, I guess to the question of would I let would I let a 4-year-old become a influencer on it? I mean, that wasn't necessarily the intention. I think when they had started it, it was kind of something for fun. I've actually listened to a couple interviews with the parents on it too. But I think the biggest thing is just really not pushing them to, do whatever and to try and make a whole bunch of money or whatever it is. But it's, as long as it's something fun or whatever, and it's minimal, I'd say that yeah, it could be fun. I mean, look at it seems like he's doing great with it. But what's going to be really interesting to see is when he gets older. It's kind of like with child actors too, in a way. Although I think one of the benefits of this is like it's not like it's a whole production crew on a movie set of whatever. It's kind of the parents and the kid
I
shooting
mean,
a
I don't
little
know if it's the
video at
parents.
home.
You don't make $230 million
True. No,
with
I
it
mean,
just
it's
being the
expanding now.
parents.
I will.
Yeah.
It's for sure expanding now. They got editors. They actually have multiple, even different channels. It's not even just around, him anymore. But uh, at least at the start of what it was. But that's what's going to be interesting too. Is like, how does that experience? Because think about how many kids even know him. Like, if he's,
That is so interesting to me. Like, I mean, he's so big now. Like, what is his life like? I mean, is
yeah.
it just like your point, those child actors or child musicians that are just like blowing up? Like, is that,
Well,
his
think about how many
experience?
kids, like, you recognize, like, or, like, people like myself now, like, maybe we recognize, like, SpongeBob or whatever, and we got a whole bunch of things that we remember from watching SpongeBob and whatnot, and, like, these shows, it's gonna be the same thing, as the next generations come up and everything, but it's gonna be, he's already gonna be a star of whatever that is. So it's gonna be really interesting to see, where that goes. I
We're seeing a lot of parents in chat that are just saying their kids are hooked, like completely hooked on his content.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good content, and the thing is too is, like, there's a lot of these younger kids channels. There's so many memes of the Coco Melon, even, like, where like, a kid will, you play the intro to Coco Melon and the kids come running, which is, if I'm not mistaken, that is now the biggest channel on all of YouTube. Um,
It was
which is
getting
like,
something like 4 billion views a month or something crazy like that.
oh yeah, I mean, even on top of, like, let alone the subscriber count, like the views and the watch time, just because, kids spend a lot more time, and have a lot more time in general in their day, and a whole range of ages of kids in general, right? But uh, that's it's so crazy that, I mean, over 200 million on branded toys and clothing. This is something that, I think is a testament to figuring out something on, in addition to YouTube alone, right? Like, 29 million from YouTube channel, that's pretty good, I would say. Chat, anybody else would take that? Oh, that'd be pretty good, right? But 200 million with branded toys and clothing, and, like, expanding outside of even just the channel, that's starting some other business, starting, whether that's even a different channel, whatever that is. Like, look at the expansion and the high level of work that's even being done around all of these channels, around everything that's going on. That's like to me, like, this is just the very beginning of where all of these different YouTube channels, where all these different things can go. Because you look at something like, maybe some of the more traditional media, TV shows, and all of those things, and how much people are even paying for commercial spots in those shows, or, I guess not really movies, right? I guess there's movies on TV channels and whatnot, but still, like, on specific program channels, how much in terms of even just advertising revenue is being done. It's like, I think there's still, and then just look at the views that some of these channels and content creators are getting. Like, it's taking over a lot of that, and in a lot of ways, it's even more targeted. It's even more catered, and it can come in a better format in terms of how some of the promotions actually happen. In a lot of
What's
ways, not every
interesting, I
case,
think,
but
what's really interesting, I think, especially with kids watching content on YouTube, is like they've got their iPad and it's just like, recommended videos, or like you'll just click on that or swipe next, and they could sit there for like several hours and just do that, which I think is a very different behavior than most like more adult viewers or people that watch content on YouTube. And I think it's just this endless scrolling. And I actually think with Ryan, he's actually paving the way. So a lot of other content creators that are much bigger, much older, or not bigger, but older at least, are like looking at what he's doing and going, wow, like, how did he build such a massive licensing business? How can I
yeah.
go build that? And it's interesting seeing a 4 or 9 year old pave the way in terms of showing how it's done. I think we're going to continue to see that, especially with like platforms like TikTok. We're seeing a lot of these younger content creators kind of show how it's done.
Yeah, and it's a question if you even really wanna go down that path. Like, do you wanna expand, get office space? Do you wanna hire employees? Like, do you wanna have an editor and make that next step and take an investment in what you're doing to do that? There's a lot of creators that just don't even wanna do it. One that does it extremely well, though, and has taken every single opportunity, even more than you could even imagine. If you've never seen him, is Mr. Beast. And he's up to something new. He's up to something new every single episode. But
What a
this one is
year he's
actually
had.
crazy. Let's take a look.
Now that Mr. Beast has opened up 300 burger ghost kitchens across the US, we take a look at some of his keys to success on YouTube. Make a clip too long, no one watches or wants to watch another. Make one too short, people won't linger. Mr. Beast videos last between 10 and 20 minutes. Use a bad thumbnail photo or title and no one will click, so make good thumbnails. Pick a concept that is easy to communicate in the title. I adopted every dog in a shelter, and then use the first 30 seconds to establish the stakes. Blend 3 popular genres, outrageous challenge and celebrity guest appearance with reaction video. Use money as a vehicle to do bigger videos and make better content. Be philanthropic. Set ambitious logistical feats. Bonus rule: viewers are attracted to displays of sheer willpower, like counting to 100,000. But not 100,001 because that's just stupid. Why is Mr. Beast the most successful YouTube creator ever?
I think Mr. Beast is just so successful because he has the mindset, even those points right there of what he's put together in his equation of content is like it's all right on the dot, and he actually goes out and does it and then goes above and beyond with it. And it's like, okay, well, I can't adopt every dog in a shelter, right? Okay, well, he didn't start by doing that. He started by, to the point of his last one, saying the same word 10,000 times in a live stream, or listening to the same song for 24 hours straight and streaming that. Like, he just came up with these crazy, crazy things and put it out there and consistently kept on doing it. He tried a whole bunch of different things. Over the years, he's been doing it for a very long time, and he figured out what kind of works and then blends some ideas together, innovates on ideas. It's something that I absolutely love to do as well. It's just been incredible to see. And to the first point involved, he opened 300 ghost burger kitchens, or burger.
That is just wild.
Kitchens.
It's just this idea of like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do something totally like no one expected it. It's not like it was like in line with some other things. It was just, it hit the internet and everyone was like, whoa, I'm buying a burger.
Yeah, and it's free burgers. You just get a free burger. He's opened a bank where he just
when the burger's free.
Yeah, you just order it on the app and it's free, or you could go and drive by and they just give you a free burger. He does all these crazy things. I don't know if, obviously it's not something sustainable over a long period of time. I'm sure it'll switch, but he does all these crazy things where he just he is the textbook of reinvesting your earnings from something into the next thing. Like literally everything that he earns from one video, he puts it into the next video. He tipped an entire house to a pizza delivery person. The pizza delivery person came and the tip was, here's the house, as well as he's giving out cars, everything that he makes. And then it's not just to say like he's just giving all the money to the people for the sake of the videos, or giveaways and whatever that he does, but he also hires editors, he hires writers, he has people that are helping him come up with concepts for what his next content's going to be. Thumbnail, which actually sometimes he'll just post out and ask people to make a thumbnail for it. It's like, it's so much creative genius behind it, but it's also like, it's not just like it just comes to him and he's done. He spends all of his, literally, I think it was a day before or two, he literally just like, I spend every single hour figuring out how do I keep on making my videos better. And when that happens over, I don't know how long exactly he's been doing it, 8-9 years or whatever, that continues to compound off each other, where he can already realize, okay, I don't even have to waste my time figuring out some of this stuff because I already know it and I can kind of go down this path. He creates his formulas, tests out, like his first formulas were literally like, I'm repeating the same exact word 100,000 times.
Do you know what's also interesting? I can't remember.
Like,
he shared.
Watch that. It's like it's crazy.
He shared some stats. In the first year and a half, he didn't break 1,000 subscribers, and he was uploading. I don't know how frequent it was, but he'd uploaded I think over 100 videos at least, maybe 130 videos in the first year and a half, and he barely broke 1,000 subscribers.
Mhm.
And now he just broke, I think 50 million, right? I think that's what he hit
Yep.
this week.
Yeah,
So
he
he
just hit
just did 50
50
million, and I think he's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, one of the fastest growing channels.
Well, I think he must have. I don't. I remember hearing this, but he must have had the record for the fastest growing channel when he created a gaming channel, and that thing hit like 1 million subscribers in like a second. And it's like one of the biggest gaming channels now in the world. But I mean, if you compare this to creators that come from different spaces, or anybody who comes from a different space and is like, okay, I'm going to make a Twitch channel based off of people that watch me for this other thing that I do. How difficult has it been for those transitions to happen and to make gaming content around it? Look at the way that he does it. Even look at like three of the top videos on there, and it's still the same format of like, something extremely outrageous. And to even the point here of the equation, pick a concept that is easy to communicate in the title. Like that is, it's so much easier said than done, because like it can be, you can say something simple, but it might not actually be interesting. But to get across sometimes like a complex topic or even a multitude of topics, and to say that clearly, that's like part of the challenge, especially on YouTube. It's a little different on Facebook because things will autoplay. TikTok, things are going to autoplay. So there's different algorithms for different platforms. But if you can communicate it, and it is something that's really interesting, like you like spending that time on it is important. And we actually kind of question about this recently in a mentorship session too. It's like, well, what if I can't come up with some of those things? Like, you still got to be able to come up with the content. And this was another quote from Mr. Beast that was something he tweeted out. Maybe it was a few months or a year ago or so, but it was basically like, start by making a piece of content, and then keep on making small improvements every time you make another piece of content. And then once you've made 100 pieces of content, like, you don't have to have it perfect day one, but it's like, keep on making those small improvements to it. And then you'll see the quality change. It may be from one episode to the other, you won't, but if you do it 100 times, like, you're going to see
That's the thing, is
something
like
much
going,
more.
can I commit to that? Like, you have to just agree that you're going to commit to 100 episodes of this thing, knowing that the first 50 will probably suck. But over time that compounds, you're going to get better and better. I think one thing that, speaking of massive successes, Mr. Beast is obviously one of the most successful YouTubers and innovating across all fronts. Someone else who has been an absolutely phenomenal success over the last few years is Charli D'Amelio. We're going to roll a clip about how she landed a TV show on Hulu. Mark.
TikTok star Charli D'Amelio and her family are getting a Hulu reality TV show. The 16-year-old TikTok star amassed 100 million followers, although not without some backlash along the way. Regardless, this is not the first time an internet celebrity has leveraged their success into new mediums like TV shows. What internet influencer has done the best job crossing over from internet celebrity to more traditional TV and movie shows?
Yeah, I don't even know who would have done it best moving
I
over.
love chat. If chat can give us some names. I mean, there was,
Yeah, if you guys have seen it.
did Dr. Disrespect, and it's not as big as
So
Charli D'Amelio, but he did one, right?
He's working on I think he signed a contract for like for sure, I think it was like a TV series or a comic book. Like, there's been a couple things that I know he's begun to work on. I know there's a lot of YouTube creators who have done and even Twitch streamers who have had appearances in
Oh,
movies.
Colby just got it in chat. The Kardashians.
Yeah. I mean,
It's not gaming. I mean, Charli D'Amelio is not gaming, and I think that's the closest example of someone just crushing it.
David Dobrik started on Vine, blew up on YouTube. Yeah. But and I guess too, you got to point out too as well, it could be YouTube original shows as well. There's also been plenty of actors like King Bash has appeared in movies as well as TV shows. He's done a great job with that in general, I would say. It's starting to happen here and there, but there's also a lot of people who are like, this is ridiculous, coming from TikTok to TV. But it's like, the thing is, like, you got to keep in mind there's so many different audiences and different ways that things are going to resonate with different people. Even like with Ryan's Toys we were talking about. If you're not a parent or have any Coco Melon, right? Yeah, went to Netflix. So there, it's like if you don't watch some of those kids shows, like it's not going to be relevant to you. You're probably not going to watch it, even if it does make an appearance on whatever it is. But yeah, Red and Link as well. The Good Mythical Morning, like there's a lot of ways that you can even create those shows on your own platform. But what's exciting is like if you can get some good spend behind it, you can put it on a more mainstream show. You can actually do a lot more with that. It doesn't always work out. Even like there was a lot of people that didn't like some of the YouTube original shows, and the originals were kind of like I think you had to have the subscription to YouTube, like a paid was it
To
Red
watch it.
or
Yeah. Red. I
whatever it
think it was
was.
Red.
So, and then you could watch it, and it's similar to your Netflix or your Hulu, and it's kind of a little bit more produced shows. Even Kevin Hart, I believe, had his show on there. So it's like there are avenues for it, but it's also it kind of goes back to, is that something you even want to pursue in the first place? Like, are you going to work towards that? Even like if it's going to be voice acting or whatever it is. Some people told me, oh, you should go into voice acting for some of the characters and things that I've done in some of my gaming videos and things. It's like, oh, you could get into that. But it's also, do I want to get into that? It's also going to be like, I got to test myself out in a couple different areas. So I've occasionally done a couple kind of one-off things with like the Neebs Gaming guys, which are fantastic content creators, gaming content creators, but they also have a couple animated shows that they do and they produce on their own that I've been able to get featured in some of those. So that's kind of cool. But I'd also don't like, I'm kind of focused on, it can also be just extremely time consuming with where I'm at right now. You know what I mean?
The chat's listed a bunch of folks. Watsky, Kingback. You mentioned Rhett and Link as well.
The Paul brothers. Yeah.
So there's a lot of precedent for this. I think TikTok's one of the more interesting ones because it's such a short format. Like it's a very specific content type that seeing that translate into longer form content is going to be really interesting. But it sounds, I mean, my wife, I don't watch it. I'm well stressed that I do not watch the Kardashians. But my wife has definitely watched it a couple of times, and it sounds like Charli D'Amelio and her family are essentially going to become the next generation of the Kardashians. That's what I think's happening.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going for like a reality TV show in general, it's going to be that's the general direction that Keeping Up with the Kardashians went. So it's a little different. Even somebody was saying Letterkenny started on YouTube. I just started watching that just to check it out. It was really interesting. I didn't even know that. But it is cool to see, like, look at how many examples chat's even coming up with here of how many of these are starting to already happen in many different ways. And I think it just goes to show like how much more power some of the content creators have on a lot of the fronts. You know what? Even I want to say Andrew Schwartz, it was, had a new Netflix show. It was like a 4-part series. I might be butchering his name, but that was something that he's a stand-up comedian who released his content on YouTube. And like, that's where he put his special out. And then it got picked up by Netflix. And now it's a 4-part series there too. Like it's so important what the content is that you're creating. I mean, we've talked a lot about, Aileen with the 1 million subscribers, talking about some of her content strategy, Mr. Beast with some of his content strategy, even Ryan with, 9 years old, his content strategy. There's a lot of different content strategies behind it, but it's like, what is the content that's underlying it? You still can package it and put it together. And if you get more ad spend behind it, maybe you can make that idea even bigger and crazier than what it ever could have been. Like, even going from TikTok and doing some dances and entertaining some people that way to coming up with a whole reality TV show behind it. Like that is within possibility.
I think the
That's what I think should open up people's eyes to like, this is just a person who's putting stuff out on the internet and has made this happen. Right. So it's like, how do you come up with that other unique thing that, okay, a whole bunch of people aren't going to understand it, but there's also a whole bunch of, teen girls who love seeing somebody who looks like their friend dancing, and they become attached to them or whatever, create some content that's fun that they can dance to, have some fun with their friends, have a good time, and then create a Hulu reality TV show from that.
I think we're seeing that now across every big creator. Remember Ninja? Like, was that the year before, 2019, where he was like everywhere and anywhere? Like he was on everything, not just gaming, like all these shows and stuff. Yeah, and I think we're seeing that there's so much opportunity around there for the bigger content creators to go branch out into different things, and it's important for them to keep continuing to grow. I think in terms of content and growth, one of the things we chat about is keeping your content interesting. What's interesting the last few weeks is Rust has came to light, and this is giving me kind of nostalgic feeling, like kind of Among Us. But Mark, roll the clip about Rust.
Facepunch Studios' multiplayer survival sandbox game Rust gets a bump from less than 100,000 viewers to 750,000 plus. This all thanks to top influencers like XQC, Shroud, Myth, Pokimane, and more, led by OfflineTV launch server. This has led to OfflineTV working with Facepunch to create a second server so the PvP influencers will remain on the original, and more roleplay influencers on the other. But as we've seen in Among Us, Phasmophobia, and others, influencers are flexing their influencer muscles, as previously the publisher developers held all the power, and the influencers were just visitors. Will influencers become more powerful than the game publisher developers?
Well, I think like you got to have the game in the first place to utilize a lot of this stuff. In other ways, there are creators who are creating their own games. So if you have that sandbox, you have that tools, even if they get enough funding in general and their channels become big enough, they could create their own game, but then they're still the developers of the game too. So I think there's still always going to be an important place for the developers. That being said, I mean, even with those games blowing up, like there's a huge element to the creators coming in on the space.
I think we're seeing, I think a AAA developer, like whether it's like an EA or a Riot or Activision, like these companies are probably not going to, like the creators are not going to become more powerful than them. But I do think that for those indie games or like older games like Among Us or Rust, like the creators play a huge role in whether or not that game is going to be successful. I can't remember. Is Rust, do you have to pay for Rust? I can't remember.
I don't know. I've actually never played Rust before, but I have been watching it. It's one that I'm like, do I want to dive into this right now? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it's a game on Steam that's $20 or something. Chat, what's the price of the game? But one of the things that's most powerful, and even to some of the people are saying that the creators are already more powerful. I think it depends on the area where it is, because you can also just get banned off a game as well. As even like Dr. Disrespect got banned off PUBG back in the day for somebody following him around and they were teaming or whatever it was, right? Like, but there's so many examples of this. Even just look at Minecraft. That game's still around. That game's blowing up again as well. And it's because of all the different mods and servers that people are creating. Look at GTA. GTA is still around with all the mods, the servers, GTA RP. It's just a similar concept of what's going on now in Rust, where people are having these servers and these places where people can join in. It's about 40-ish, people are saying.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, I haven't seen the numbers, but you've seen the viewers on Twitch, as Mark was saying, go from 100,000 to 750,000. That is insane. Like for those developers, if they're getting now, I'm not seeing the numbers on Steam, but I'm sure their player base is like, shot up like Among Us did. That's huge for those developers. If they're paying $40 for the game, so that's like they're now doing incredibly well, even though they've been around for several years.
A moment with Alex. Like, everybody's playing survival games because 2021 is the year of the survivor. That's why.
That's so true.
But like it is a lot of the customization. I think it's a lot of being able to create. So it's about $40 on Steam for it. Yeah, I mean, even looking at like XQC, I looked at his stream. He had over 120,000 people watching the other night, which is, for a guy who he'll get from 30 to 80,000 very regularly. But to see an additional big boost off of that for playing Rust, which is by no means a new game at all, it's like it goes back to even what are some of the content you're creating within the game, not even just the game itself and what the developers are intending when they create it, but like what are people actually doing with it and how are they utilizing some of it, and what does it turn into with some of the adventures. Even again, going back to Minecraft, it's like there are entire story arcs and like campaign stories that people have created and developed that you get to walk through and play through, and it's somebody telling you a story and you can experience it. There's channels that literally just have people create stories within games so that they just go and play through these stories, and that's their content for their audience. It's like they have an entire team that's developing more to the game than what was even initially there in the first place, right?
Yeah, what's interesting is Offline TV's involvement in this, because they kind of kicked off the revival of this, and then a bunch of others have followed suit. But they came up with the idea of like bringing all these creators together and jumping into a Rust game, and I wonder like why are
How do
they
you
so
think?
successful?
Yeah, like what? Because they're also, I think, a big reason that even like Among Us started to blow up in the first place.
Yep, and I think for them, it's like really intentionally thinking about opportunities for creators to collaborate and create, let's call it like
Mm.
moments, but they're not. It's not just a moment, because it's something that's now going for months. The Among Us hype was what, it was like a 5 to 6 month period, still going on a little bit
Oh
now.
yeah,
Like
it's still going on. At least a lot more than Fall Guys, from what I've seen. It's still, you know, people coming together on that is incredible. And I think you're right in a lot of ways. Like that is a group that works very well together, and they're also designing those experiences to be played together and to work together as that group in that content team, more or less. And
they're setting
um,
trends too. Like there's is now
yeah,
the Latin American community, which have some of the biggest content creators in the world. They're now making content around it. Like iBuy and a couple of the other guys, they were getting 90,000 to 100,000 viewers playing Rust, and they're not playing with the Offline TV group. They've just said, "Oh, that's a cool idea. I'm gonna go do something like that with my community or like my friends." So I
Deep
think it's
Politics, he's amazing. XQC keeps his popularity and relevancy over so many games too. He's done a really good job switching between so many of the popular games. Not to mention he's hilarious too. Yeah, and that's the thing that I always see with him as well, is like he's, even though he may not be consistent on the same game, like his overall personality and the content that he's still creating for people, and the memes and him yelling and his reactions, his voice, like all of that still carries through in so many of the different outlets, that I think that's what's been so intriguing to see, as well as the offline TV guys and how they've been able to handle everything as well. It really is awesome to see. And I do just think this is the beginning. I think there's going to be even more games outside of these, are just old games that have been coming out. But what about any new games that come out, and how can they utilize it? If not, if they create their own game, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few years they create something of their own. Obviously, I have nothing to base that off of, but uh, that would be really cool to see, and I'm sure that would that would be another exponential, a
I
boom
think they
for
should
'em.
act for like inspiration for all the content creators that are listening. Is it's really hard to come up with content. It genuinely is, and teaming up with other content creators can be a good way to freshen up your content and make it a little more dynamic and mix it up a bit. So find people that you can team up with, play games with, make it more interesting. It's something that will help your creative process and also just make it more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's great to build your own kind of skill set, be comfortable with where you're at, but man, is it great to work with other people as well, and then take that skill set of what you build and then see where else you can go with it, get different reactions, have different experiences. And it's true across so many games and genres. But with that, guys, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining in, listening in. If you want to find all of our podcasts and all of our information, head over to pipeline.gg. So much more on streaming. It's something that I can't say enough good things about it. Obviously, we've put a lot into it, both of us co-founding it, and we're really excited for the new year and to see all you guys joining in, hanging out with us, talking some streaming topics and content topics. It's a lot of fun.
Make 2021 your best year yet. You
Absolutely.
guys can do it. Go for it.
Thanks so
Cool,
much,
everyone.
for joining, guys.